Hi, I'd like to talk to you about my book, which is called From Expertise to Impact, a practical guide to informing and influencing policymakers. I wrote this book because throughout my career, I've always been frustrated that all that scientific and technical knowledge that we generate doesn't make it to policymakers and the public so they can make better decisions. I found this out early in my career when I was a high school student. I was on a National Science Foundation grant with the focus of each summer teaching high school students to learn how to do research. And my research was on the topic of microbial degradation of oil. And this was a topic I cared about a lot because every summer in Texas, we'd go to Corpus Christi, Texas, go to the Gulf of Mexico, and I'd get all these like oil spots on my bathing suit. And it was all because of oil that was leaking from the rigs and other things that were out in the Gulf of Mexico. So with microbial degradation of oil, you can get little microbes to eat up that oil. And I thought it was just really fascinating research. And that was my very first project in high school. But what I found is that even though I did the research, it doesn't mean that it would get to the people who could make the decisions. Instead, what can happen is that research can go into like a big, giant virtual warehouse. The way I like to think about it is at the end of the Indiana Jones movie, where the Ark of the Covenant goes into this big giant warehouse, is stuck on a shelf, and nobody ever sees it again. Well, I didn't really want that to happen to my research, and that became my mission in life, to bring scientific and technical information to policymakers and the public to make those better decisions. So what have I learned over the years? I've learned first that it's not enough in your papers to produce just the scientific and technical information. You have to answer the questions that policymakers have. Just like anything else, if you're buying a car, don't just care how the car works, but you care about all sorts of other things. You care about the cost, you care about if it fits your family, you might care about like the environmental impact. There's lots of things you care about when you as a decision maker decide whether or not to buy that car. And with policymakers, it's not any different. They have lots of criteria that they use in deciding how to make decisions. So the first thing I learned was that I needed to produce more information than just that scientific and technical information on how effective something was. And in my case, how effective microbes ate up the oil in order to have an impact. The second thing I learned is that a scientific paper is not the best way to reach policymakers or the public. Who wants to go on their free time and just read a scientific paper or look something up? I mean, I don't think we even do that ourselves about research that's not related to our own topic. So the next part is to really think about how to disseminate that information, how to reach those people in a way that they understand. And so communication mechanisms are very important. They need to be short, they need to be brief, and they need to get the point across in a way that is understandable to those who are making those decisions. The third mistake that I made is thinking that people would come to me for knowledge. I being the big font of knowledge with my research, and the people would come to me. But what I learned over time is that you have to go to them. You have to go to where those people are, because they don't know that you have information to share unless you reach out to them. And that means you have to talk to community groups, talk to members of Congress, talk to staff legislators, anybody who's willing to listen to what you have to say. You need to go out and communicate your message, because otherwise it'll just stay in that lab. It'll stay in that research paper. It'll stay in that big vault of journal articles that's somewhere out in the internet. To make action, to really have impact, you have to talk to real people in their real settings, in their homes, in their communities, wherever it is that they are. You have to go out to them, not expect them to come to you. So in this book, what I do is I teach you 10 steps for taking your research and turning it into a product and doing the analysis that's necessary to make a societal impact with your work. Now, some of these steps are going to go beyond what you learned in science and engineering classes, but that's okay. Most scientists, engineers, they have an analytical mind, and none of what we're doing today is very challenging. The key is for you to change your mindset, to go from a mindset that only focuses on scientific and technical information, that's focused on whether or not something works or doesn't work, is effective or is not effective, and instead incorporates these other values that all of us use when we make decisions. So I hope to join me in this journey as I go through each chapter of the book to provide you with an overview. And ideally, you're going to take the time to actually read the book, do the exercises within it, and figure out how to make an impact with your own research so that you can improve society through scientific and technical information.